In today's video, I'm going to show you how I draw a face. I'll show you how I draw the basic proportions of the head, the structure of the face, the shading, and the final details. So these are the step-by-step process that I use in order to draw most of my faces. The approach that I'm about to show you is actually what works for me, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna work for you. That's why I decided to show you instead of telling you what you should be doing, because art is really subjective and there are a lot of ways you can, draw a face. I just want to expose the technique that I use, and hopefully that's gonna resonate with you by the end of this video. So without any further ado, let's get started. For me, a reference photo is really important. I spend 1 hour, 2 hours, sometimes even a whole day trying to find a good reference photo to draw.
You sure about that?
Now, the only platform that I use to find my references is Pinterest. 99% of my references come from Pinterest. It's free and they have a lot of good references there. What makes a good reference photo? For me, the first thing is the quality. I don't want to use a reference photo that is blurry. I want a reference photo that has a good lighting. To be honest, I don't mind if a reference is a selfie or a really extreme angle. I am confident enough to draw those kind of angles. Okay, now that we've got a reference photo, it's time to pick up a sketchbook and a pencil. Now the sketchbook that I'm using here is gonna be this Sakura. I don't know if I pronounced it right, but that's the sketchbook that I'm going to be using. Now I'm going to show you the pencils that I use later in the video. Now I have two ways to start my laying. The first one is to start from general to the specific, and the second approach is to start right away with the specific. Now most of the time I use a more intuitive approach, which is the second one, and that is just to be a little bit more direct. Now the problem with the second approach is that it is a little bit risky, because if you don't have enough experience, you're gonna find yourself in trouble trying to figure out where the proportions are. That's why as a beginner, if you are a complete beginner, it's very important to learn the basic proportions first using the method that I'm going to show you. And once you are confident enough, you can jump to a more intuitive approach, which is like a freehand, but not necessarily a freehand method. Okay, now let's get the proportions down. And the first thing that I like to start with personally is to use a circle. I know there are a bunch of ways you can draw faces, but the one that really works for me is to draw a circle. Now once I draw the circle, which represents the cranial mass, the next thing is to look for the tilt and the direction of the face. Now I like to use what I call a cross line. It basically means the center line and the brow line. Now because this is a 3/4 pose, I need to chop off the side of this cranium. The head is actually flattened at the side. It has a plane, and that plane actually aligns with the side of the eyebrow. Now in a normal pose, the side plane of the head is 2/3 of the height of the cranium. Of course, this is just a normal pose. Once the head starts to tilt or twist, the proportions are going to be a little bit different. Now if you draw a curve from the top end of the circle, it allows you to find the hairline, and you do the same thing at the bottom. It allows you to find the bottom of the nose. Now I already have 2 of the thirds of the face. I'm just going to duplicate the same measurements to find the bottom of the chin. Now we have the thirds of the face from the hairline to the brow line to the bottom of the nose, and from the bottom of the nose to the bottom of the chin. From the brow line, I can draw a curve or a straight line to locate the side of the face, like the cheekbone area. The jaw is actually one of the hardest bones to locate, especially when there is a subtle change in the head tilt. Now one of the best ways you can locate the jaw is to draw a parallel line to the center line of the face, and that parallel line divides the side plane of the cranium into half, somewhere below the area of the ear. So that's roughly where we can find it. Okay, now that I connected the jaw, it's time to add the neck and the shoulders. Now after I do that, I can just go ahead and draw the side plane of the jaw area or the cheek. Now this technique really allows you to draw a more compact head. Okay, now once we draw the contour lines, okay, just to find a little bit of likeness of what we see on the reference photo, it's time to add the features. Now the first feature that I like to start with is usually the nose. If I get the nose correct, I can use the nose to locate the eyes, mouth, and so on. I use my intuition to know how wide the nose is going to be. Then I draw the planes of the nose, the top and the bottom. Now once I establish the nose, I can go ahead and draw the mouth. The basic proportion of the mouth is simple. You can divide the bottom third into 3 parts. The top line is going to be where the actual mouth line is going to sit. The bottom lip is going to be slightly above the bottom line, and the top lip is just going to be roughly above the initial line for the mouth. Of course, the thickness and the wideness or the width of the mouth also depends on the head type. Some people have a thicker lip, other ones have a much thinner lip, which means that you have to rely on the reference that you're drawing. Once we establish the mouth, it's time to add the eyes. I use the wings of the nose to locate the tear dots, and normally in a normal pose the eyes are actually equal, but this one is like a 3/4 pose, which means the left hand side is going to be slightly smaller than the one that is on the right hand side. The reason why is because there is a little bit of foreshortening whenever the head is in dynamic angle. Now the ears usually sit on the middle third. If you draw two lines, you will see that the nose actually aligns with the bottom of the ear, and the eyebrow also aligns with the top of the ear, or you can use the eye to locate the top of the ear. Now I come back to the eyes and draw the actual eyes. The top eyelid is 3 lines and the bottom eyelid is only 2 lines. I try to make it really simple. I'm not drawing any curves, but later I will draw those subtleties. But now I just draw lines rather than curves because it's easier for our brain to interpret lines than curves. One of the ways you can draw the hair is just to follow the direction of the hair strands. You don't focus on individual hair. As you can see here, I'm focusing on like a group of hair, even though I'm not trying to make them look really interesting, but keep it simple at the beginning. Do not focus on the detail. Now line weight helps me create more interesting looking drawing. There are some edges that are really soft and other edges that are really hard. Now line weight allows you to create thick and thin lines based on the softness or hardness of the edge that you're drawing. For example, on the nose, I use some dark lines for really dark corners like the nostril or the wing of the nose. And the bottom lip, I use dark line to show that it's a dark angle right there. And the side of the bottom lip, sometimes I don't even draw them because it's a really soft edge right there. Now let's grab our pencil that we're going to be using for this first step of the shading. Before I start shading, I like to map out the shadows. Now the pencil that I'm going to be using is going to be an HB pencil. I like to start with dark values. Any area that is dark, such as the corner of the eye socket, the nose, the lips, the eyes, the hair in general, so that we have 2 separate values. We have a light family and a shadow family. You can see not every single shadow is the same. We have many different shadows, so you have to know the difference between them. Now the first shadow you need to know is a drop shadow. It's basically a shadow that is casted by an object onto another object. Now in this case we don't really have a drop shadow, so I'm going to focus on the actual shadows which are on the eye socket and at the left hand side of the nose. So these are the only shadows that I can find right now. The next shadows are occlusion shadows, which are the darkest darks. You find them in the most remote corners of the face, such as the underside of the eye, the underside of the mouth, the nostril. So I'm going to use a 12B pencil or a 10B pencil for that matter. Now once I create that shadows, I can go ahead and build some midtones, and the midtones that we have here are on the nose, the cheekbone, and perhaps the forehead. Now the hair is also a really dark value, so I use the dark pencil that I have to create the hair. I either use a blending stump or my finger. My finger allows me to blend wide areas, whereas my blending stump allows me to be more specific. Now the reason why I blend my drawings is that it allows me to create soft texture, especially when I'm drawing females, and it kind of helps me have this nice flow from dark values to midtones to highlights. But sometimes I prefer my drawings to be a little bit rusty, a little bit messy, and that's maybe part of my style. I don't know. Now at this stage the drawing is pretty much over. The last steps that remains is to add the highlights. Highlights are small details, but they can bring your drawing to life. Now there are some places where you don't really need to add the highlights, but other places like the white area of the eye, the highlight on the lips and the top of the nose. Remember, the highlights are just details. Alright, now as you can see the drawing is complete. This is the final result, and I feel like I did a good job in this particular drawing. I struggled a little bit because I had to erase some areas that are really tricky for me, like the jaw and perhaps the eyes, but I don't know. Let me know in the comment section if I got it right. So this is how I draw my faces. I really hope you enjoyed the process. Now, if you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a like, subscribe if you have not done so. Now, the full video of this drawing is going to be available on my Patreon. I upload exclusive content on my Patreon. If you want to support me, just hit the link in the description. I upload once in a week and I make long format videos. You can also support me here on YouTube by watching my videos to the end and liking and subscribing and commenting. With that being said, guys, thanks so much for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. See you in the next video, guys. Peace. So in today's video, I'm going to show you